Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Her conversion rate is 21%.
21%.
Yes.
How did you work out 21%?
I started with her total number of prospects, which she said she had around, did she mention 12? That is her entire pipeline, eh? And then the closure of 2. So really 21.
Okay, I heard like she says she started with 6.
She started with 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if she started with 6, because
It was 6, yes.
you started with 6, right?
Yes, 6.
Then you closed at 2. So that means
I closed 2, but there is one still being negotiated. Yeah, it hasn't gotten to closure point.
So that means she
so your
closed.
conversion rate was 33%.
33%.
Yes.
So what you have calculated is conversion between close, or rather from leads to close, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
From leads to close, you get that 3%.
Yes.
How about from leads to penetration? I mean, from leads to presentation. Remember, for the leads, she still started with the 6 leads. So here and the leads is still 6. So 6, she started with 6 leads and got 6 presentations out of those leads. What would you
think that's 100. That's 100%.
That's 100%.
Yes, from the lead to presentation. Yes.
Absolutely, that is so good. I think I like Mpuguza's conversion of leads to presentations. The way she nurtures her leads and makes them hot, that's very commendable. And from presentation to negotiations, what percent is that?
Presentation to negotiation. How many presentations did she do?
Anyone?
She did 6. She did 6 presentations,
There were
and
4 presentations. Yeah.
And got 4 negotiations.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is 4 negotiations out of 6 presentations?
That's 66%.
Sorry?
That's 66%.
How much percent?
66.
66%, that's correct. Fantastic. So, okay, I can bring this one here again. 66%. And how about from negotiation to closing? Two out of 3 is what percent?
That's still 66.
That's a 66.
It's still a 66.
Exactly. But negotiation to, or rather negotiation from presentation is still 66. Here we are. Let me just put it here. 66%. Now, looking at these figures, what can you say is Mpuguza's strength? If you are Mpuguza's manager, what would you say is her strength?
I think her strength lies on following up the leads.
Yes.
And also doing presentation. That's also another strength. And all the way to negotiations. I think so. Then now here in closing, if she presented to 6 and did 4 negotiations and closed 2,
yes,
I think this shows her strength.
That's
so
what
the strength lies in all the areas I've mentioned: presentation, negotiations, and closing.
Very good. Now, let me ask you, if you are in Mbuguza's shoes, which stage in the system would you like to improve a lot more?
In negotiations,
right?
She needs to improve on this, because if she had 6 presentations, I would have liked if she could negotiate with all the 6, follow up even after the presentations. You can still follow up and find a room for negotiations out of the 6. Then out of the 6, assuming you've done negotiations with 6, you could end up closing maybe 4, and that would give her a lot more strength. So that area needs some improvement.
Sorry, I can see there's a bit of confusion here. Negotiations were 3 and 2 are yet to close. And if she had 6 presentations, so this cannot be 66%.
It's not 66%.
It would have to be. Yeah, go ahead.
2 are closed, right?
2 are closed, so yes.
There is 1 still being negotiated on the negotiation stage. It has not closed yet because they're still interesting me in post negotiation. Yeah. So I still have 1 more that I know I would
that
close.
One is going to close later, yes.
Later.
Yes.
Yeah,
like I said, by next week we should.
Fantastic. I think that's a very good job. Mbuguza, that's a very good job.
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
I would think if we were to base our reasoning on the chart here, that's from lead generation, presentation, negotiations, and closes, then we don't talk about what has not been closed, because you can see it's reducing from lead 6, then presentations, she did 6, and then she lost at the negotiation, she did 3 and closed 2. So what has not been closed is still pending in the pipeline. So that will come later on, maybe in next month. So you look at presentation and negotiations, I think the percentage there should have been 50%, if I'm not wrong.
Exactly.
If we look at, we look at presentation and negotiation.
Exactly. So this is 50%.
Yes.
Exactly. Now that's
but
what
she presented to 4.
Sorry?
I thought she mentioned she presented to 4.
Okay. Now, Mbuguza, make up your mind. Did you present to 4 or to 6? Mbuguza, did you present to 4 or to 6? Mbuguza, I think I've heard her talk about 4, but for most of the time I've heard her talk about 6. Now, assuming that she did presentations to 6 of them, that means all her leads, she did presentations to all of them. But out of them, she managed to close 2. That means she still has another 4 that are not yet closed. Can everybody see that? She started with 6 leads, presented to all of them.
6.
Then negotiated with the 3, closed 2. She has already closed 2, so the remaining ones are how many in the pipeline? 4.
4.
And in the pipeline, she has one at the negotiation stage. So we can come here and put one at negotiation stage. That one has not yet concluded. And she still has 3 clients whom she presented to, and they have not called her for negotiations. Can you see that? Great. Now, yes. What I'm asking is, if you are Mbuguza and you wanted to improve the way you operate your selling system, because I would like you to look at this pipeline as your system of converting leads to relationships. This is your lead conversion system. You convert leads into relationships. This is your lead improvement pipeline. You improve leads to become relationships. So this is your system. I know closes are very important, and we are all very focused on closes. But you know what happens? If you could just take a step back, instead of worrying too much about closing, you look at it as a system where you are working from one stage to the next stage to the next stage. Just like we have worked with Mbuguza. And you look at it and you see from lead generation to presentations, you are able to transition all clients 100%. Every lead you get, you're able to secure appointments and you present to them. Now, the ones you present, only 3 call you for negotiations. That means the other 50% are yet to make up their minds whether to proceed with you or whether to look elsewhere. And then out of the ones you negotiate, you are able to close 2 within the next 15 days of the new month. And 1, you are expecting the decision to be made anytime. You can clearly see there is a figure here of 50%, which appears to be lower than all the percentages on that system. And that is the number of negotiations that you get from your presentations. My question is, which part of Mbuguza's system does she need to improve?
Okay.
Does she need to improve on lead generation? Does she need to improve on negotiation? Does she need to improve on presentations? Does she need to improve on closes? Which part of her system, which if she can improve, her results will be much more than what she has achieved? Can everybody see that? Which part of the system does she need to improve? Which stage of the pipeline does she need to improve?
Like negotiation.
Negotiations, she was able to achieve 66%, but you can see from
50%.
The 50% needs to
negotiation.
Be
yes.
This needs to be
and I think also
yes.
Also closing, because if you look at the chart, she has done so well from the lead presentation. She's also done very well, almost 100%, not almost. Then she loses on negotiations here.
Yeah.
So that means she has to improve here, and also on closing, because if negotiation was properly done to the 50%, then I would think she would have ended up closing the 50%. That's the 3 clients. So she has to improve both on negotiations and the closing.
Yes,
from my point of view.
Yes, fantastic. She has to improve both negotiation and closing, but it looks like the biggest improvement needs to be done on the presentation. The 3 who are presented to, and they did not proceed to negotiation. Can you see how your sales system shows you exactly which areas you need to put your finger on. It's quite clear that she needs to pay a little bit more attention to presentation. Perhaps she needs to check whether she presented the correct solution to these 3 clients who have not progressed the discussion. But looking at the way she crossed 66% within 15 days of the new month, out of the 3 people that she negotiated with. And she has told us clearly that she's expecting any time now she'll be called for the outcome of the one who is remaining. I have no doubt she's doing very well with negotiations. But the most important thing that she needs to check, looking from her performance last month, is whether the needs of the 3 clients who have not yet invited her for negotiations were clearly identified. Remember the preparation stage where you identify the need of the client that you are going to speak to? Remember, when you go for the presentation, one of the things you do is to question the client how their business is going, how they see their business going into the future, so that by the time you are doing your presentation, you are trying to match what the client is looking for with the solutions that you have. Remember, even between me and you, when I met you yesterday, one of the very first things I asked you to do is to tell me what you are expecting for these 2 days. Can you remember that? Do you guys remember when I asked you what you expect for the 2 days? And remember, at the end of the day yesterday, I still asked you again just to confirm what you're expecting to take away by the end of the day today, because I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm delivering to you is fitting completely with what you're looking for. And this is why I kept on checking back whether what you're looking for is properly understood by myself. This is the same approach that you need to adopt with your clients. As you do the preparation and as you do the presentations, make sure you clearly identify the solution they are looking for so that in your presentation, you address that. Great, I'm going to open the chat box for something like 10 seconds for someone who might have a question or a quick comment, and then we proceed to the next item. 10 seconds, please go to the chat box and go ahead and ask a question, go ahead and make a comment. Okay. It looks like everyone just wants to go to the next item. And the next item really is something very easy and straightforward because, all right, okay. I have a question here from Daisy. And I think everybody needs to listen to this. Daisy is asking, is there an ideal average percentage for maximum production? Is there an ideal average percentage for maximum production? Daisy, thank you very much for that question. What I want to say is this percentage will depend from one individual to another. It also varies with the kind of clients that you are dealing with. For example, when we are looking at Bugusa's case, we are looking at only the corporate clients. I am sure if we looked at her performance on the retail clients, the rates won't be much lower than what we are recording on the corporate, because the retails, you have very many of them. But these rates should not worry you. I would like you to be calculating these rates for your own management of your selling system. This system is yours. And remember, we are all different. We all have different strengths. For example, Bugusa might be very good with the big corporates, and someone else is very good with the SMEs. All of those clients are needed in the business. And I have seen situations where you have two sales team members. One of them closes only one deal every quarter, and that one deal they are going to close will cover their targets for 6 months, for 2 quarters basically. And then I have another salesperson who is bringing in an SME, 2 SMEs every other day. That means they are growing our market penetration. So what I would do is I'll depend on the one handling the SMEs to grow the market penetration. And then I depend on the one who is bringing the big accounts to grow the revenue market share, to bring in big numbers, to pay expenses and to pay claims and things like those. So as a sales team leader, this is how you balance your members' performance so that you can have an optimal performance for the company. And at the individual level, I would like you to be able to discover where your strength lies. Does your strength lie in the big accounts, or does it lie with the small accounts? Of course, the ideal is where all of us are selling to the very big accounts. And I would say if you find you don't have a strength currently to handle the big accounts, you can build that strength through more training and building your competence to a level where you are able to handle the big accounts and record good conversion rates. So if you find right now you are dealing with only the small accounts, build your skill, build your self-confidence, and start going for the big accounts, because that's where most of the money comes from. And don't panic. Even the SMEs that you're still bringing in, they are making a contribution to the team in terms of market penetration. So improve on your skills, then later on go to the big accounts. So for the SMEs, the rate would still be a little bit lower than with the big corporates. And at the same time, for a new salesperson, obviously the conversion rates will be much lower than a veteran salesperson who has been in the business for a very long time. So this depends from one person to another, but the ideal is for someone to be able to cross every lead that they get into their pipeline. Because remember, before you start doing your lead generation activities, you have already done your market targeting. You already know the market segment. You already know the segment of the clients that you want to bring into your business. So you are looking for leads within that segment. And it follows everyone within that segment is a potential client. So the ideal rate, the ideal conversion rate is 100%, but we all know for one reason or another, you never get to 100% because clients also have their own circumstances. And so the reason why we worked out these percentages is for you to be able to see the areas where you need to improve your selling activities so that you can record better results going forward. Fantastic. That was a very good question. Thank you very much. Now, moving on. We'll now look at the situation that all of us have had to deal with in our business. And this is with respect to debt correction. I'll be very brief because I'm going to give you these notes. I'm going to send these notes to you so that you can keep referring to them. And what we are saying is, in debt correction, the effectiveness of your debt collection processes, the effectiveness of your debt collection depends a lot on the quality of relationship that was created during the sale. That's why it's very important to connect into the heart of the client, because you will not only get the business when you sell, you will need that client feeling good about you when you come to do debt collection. So that's very, very important. And many times you'll find if you have given credit to a client, if you have given them 1 week to pay, 1 month to pay, it's very good to call them to remind them of the due dates. And don't wait until the due date has passed. Make what we call a preemptive call. Call them about one week to the due date, or even 2 dates to the due date, and remind them that on such and such a date, you are expecting the payment to come through. But you need to check whether it's an email that the client wants as a reminder, or whether it's a telephone call. And this, you can ask them, do you mind me to call you in 2 weeks, or would you like me to send you an email 2 weeks before the due date? And they'll tell you which method they prefer. And by the time you are speaking to the client about a debt that is overdue, you need to have all the history of the transaction with you, and you need to have all the documents with you, because many times the client will tell you, oh, I have misplaced my documents, that's why I have not prepared the payment. So you must make sure you always have the documents with you so that you can resend the documents without wasting too much time. And obviously, every time scale that you agree with the client, every time you agree that the client is going to pay at a future date, please follow that one up with an email that has agreed. You are going to send us the payment on this date. We want to thank you very much for your timely support. And those kind of agreements become very critical if, for whatever reason, the debt was to be disputed at any time in the future, or if the debt was to go into distress and you have to apply legal processes to recover the debt. The kind of documentation you have done on the conversations that you have had with the client become very important. Obviously, in every business, the cash payment or payment in installments or part payments is always more preferable than giving 100% credit. Always remember, whether it is debt collection or closing the sale, you need to open more relationships. The person who has given you the deal is only one contact if it's a company. The person who is preparing your check will be another relationship that you need to create. And based on their circle of friends and business acquaintances, you can have very many referrals coming your way. So all the time, it is relationship, and more relationships. And the thing to remember when it comes to debt collection is that it is heavily dependent on the quality of the relationship that was created during the selling process. On that note, I would like us now to have a quick look at some of the things that have happened in terms of the COVID-19 crisis. And I would like us to start by appreciating one of the headlines that I saw in the news, in the Economist magazine. And as early as July last year, as early as July 2020, the Economist was already stating that COVID is here to stay. I hope none of you was expecting COVID to be over by April, because it is still with us. We are already in the third wave. And I don't know whether we are going to have a fourth or fifth wave, but chances are COVID is not going to disappear abruptly. It may be here with us for quite some time in the future. And therefore, we have the obligation as salespeople who drive the businesses, salespeople who drive the economies of the world. We have the obligation to make sure that we adjust our systems so that we are able to continue doing business even in the presence of COVID situations. Now, if you look even in the Kenyan situation, it is not all sectors of the economy that have been affected the same way. As a matter of fact, in many sectors of the economy, you have some people who have seem to have gained during the COVID crisis, and you have others whose businesses have been disrupted. And as you can see from the chart that we have, especially with the communication, we all know there has been an explosion of digital media. I was just reading a report that was saying Safaricom has grown their data business by 10 times in the last 1 year, which is unbelievable. But when you look at the traditional media, like the newspapers, the printed newspapers, they are really struggling. So in both cases, it's a win in one side, and in some people, they are facing challenges. The same case with transport. While airlines, transport companies, bus companies are struggling, you find the courier people are having a lot of business. At the same time, when hotels, travel, tours, pubs, and all the others are having challenges, those who do take away food are doing very good business. And we couldn't go on. In the economy, there is both people who have benefited from the circumstances and others whose businesses have been disrupted. And this happens all the time. What I would like to know is, for example, when we look at the insurance business, can we say the insurance businesses have gained from the crisis, or have they been disadvantaged by the crisis? I would like you to evaluate yourselves and give us an answer on that a little bit later on. Now, let's look at how the COVID-19 has affected your own selling system. Let's look at how the COVID-19 has affected your own selling system. Remember, that is the selling system that we talked about. In terms of lead generation, I'm seeing a lot of us having challenges because nowadays we can no longer knock doors, we can no longer visit people door to door. Either you have to call them, and when you call them, they are not in the office, they are at home. And even when it comes to presentations, all of us are realizing, just like the situation where we are now, we can no longer have the physical engagement. And even in instances where we are going to have it, it's going to be very limiting, either in terms of the frequency of physical meetings, or whether the physical meetings are going to happen at all. But we still have to do business nonetheless. Again, negotiations based on ability to do physical meetings, again, they are going to be not as easy as it used to be, because If you find a client is becoming very difficult, previously you'd just jump into the car, go meet them face to face, and finalize on the spot. Other times you'd invite them for a meeting, maybe of a drink in the evening or over lunch, and you discuss the sticker points in an informal setting, and you close a deal. But now the situation is different. We are not able to do that as we would like to. When you look at your situation, which part of your selling system has been seriously disrupted by the COVID-19? And for this one, I would like each one of us to go to the chat box and try and tell us which part of your system has been disrupted by COVID-19. Which part of your selling system has been disrupted by COVID-19? Can we have someone, or let me say each one of us, go to the chat box? Which part of your selling system is most affected by COVID-19? I think this is something that each one of us can be able to put in a comment. Which part of your selling system has been affected? Gerard tells us presentations, I agree. Even I myself, I can no longer present physically. It is online or on the telephone. Physical engagements, I agree. Physical engagements are totally completely limited nowadays. Thank you, Purity. Anyone else? Which part of your selling system has been affected? Negotiations, yes, you can no longer jump into the car and get the deal done as fast as possible.
I've also added, although it's not coming through, I don't know why. Yes, negotiation is a very critical area.
Right.
In that you know, when you are there in person, sometimes the client will ask questions which are likely to direct you or to indicate that is ready to buy.
Yes.
But you know, when you do it online, this person can easily put you off and you will not have another chance. So I think that area is very critical.
I agree
when
with
you are
you.
there and you are doing it. Yes. So it has affected us seriously.
Fantastic.
I love doing presentation to a group of people.
Yes.
And where they also fill in questions and you feel good when you close.
Yes.
So it's an area that is affected.
Fantastic. I agree with you.
Thank you.
I agree with you. It looks like we are all in agreement that presentations and negotiations has been seriously affected by the limitations of physical engagement. Now, we all know that we are trying to use what I can call virtual facilities like Zoom, like the telephone and the others to engage our clients. And one of the things that I have seen, and remember we said yesterday, selling is showmanship. You need to be able to demonstrate what we are talking about. I would like to do something here. A moment. if you look at the function that I've been using to be able to scribble and make marks on the presentation as we went on. If you check closely, every time when I do the circling, what does that do to your attention to what we are doing? It attracts your attention. You want to see what I have done. So as much as we are doing the Zoom thing, let us appreciate, we need to look for ways and means to have the clients engaged. Make use of colors if you are doing a PowerPoint presentation. Make use of moving images when you are doing the PowerPoint presentations. Let the presentation be as varied as possible so that you can be able to grab and maintain the client's attention. Now, I would like to check. Everyone here I can see knows how to handle Zoom presentations. Does anybody here know how to use what we call the whiteboard in Zoom? If you know how to use the whiteboard in Zoom, please put up your hand. Anyone used the whiteboard? I'm waiting to see the hands going up. Now, what you can see in front of you now is what we call the whiteboard. And on this whiteboard, we can be able to work on it, all of us. Let me ask you, how many of you at the bottom of your screen, you can be able to see the button for sharing? Are you able to share your screen? Is everybody now able to? Yes, I can see Daisy is able to share her screen. Fantastic. Now, Daisy, if you're able to share your screen, I would like you to click share. You click share, and then you move the mouse right to the top of the screen. If you see okay, sorry, it looks like we are having a challenge there. The sound is not very clear.
And also the challenge is you cannot share if your other colleague is sharing. That's what mine is telling me.
You cannot share if your other colleague is sharing?
Yes.
Okay, just hold it. First of all is, I want us to draw this. I intend that to be the face of someone. Daisy, could you draw the nose? So go to annotate. So take your cursor right on top. Go to
I'm trying to share, but
yes,
it's not possible to share when yours is also shared.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Are you able to share yours now?
Yeah.
They say you're able to share yours? Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and draw that circle of someone's face.
Okay.
Just the circle. Oh, fantastic. Well done, Daisy. Then, are you able to share the screen to me?
Do I say save or how do I do it?
Yes, click save. Then you make me the presenter.
Okay. I'm trying to find how to do that.
Okay, you've already saved the screen.
Yes, it's saying it's saved as a PNG.
It's saved as a PNG. Now, can you click me and check where it says you make me the presenter?
I'm only seeing chat and pin.
You only see chat and
pin when I click on the three dots on your profile.
Chat and pin. Okay, then I think the settings for your Zoom have been stopped from having another presenter, because ideally what should happen is what will happen is once you have shared and you make me the presenter, I would be able to continue drawing on what you have already drawn. That means we can be able to work on the same drawing at the same time. So if you are going to be working with a client and you are doing calculations at the same time, this helps your clients to be involved. So you could speak to your technical people to ask them how you can be making the other person a presenter as you work on the same document. And this makes it very easy, especially when you need to hold the attention of the people that you are presenting to. Having said that, at least Daisy was able to trace the whiteboard, and that was pretty good. And from the whiteboard, you can be able to scribble and demonstrate to the client what you mean as you work with them. Okay, it looks like I'm not too good in terms of drawing people's faces. That's not my face, and it is not any of you. You are much more beautiful and handsome the last time I checked. But I just wanted you to see you have various tools and options to make the presentation much more interesting instead of just having a static presentation. Brilliant. We've looked at the sectors and the way they have been affected. We have looked at how our presentation and negotiation has been affected by COVID. And one of the things that one of you asked me to do before the end of this session is to discuss how to do prospecting during the COVID season. And I would say now that you are no longer able to do physical prospecting, you can do what we call online prospecting, and the statistics are looking very, very good, because we have more than 10 million people in Kenya who are engaged in various social media platforms. And if you don't have your social media profiles, this is the time to set them up so that you can be able to request your clients and your prospects to link up with you, and you start engaging with one another on social media. Then once you have become friends with them on social media, you can start sharing some of the things that are happening in the business, up to a time when you'll be able to request them if they can allow you to make a presentation on some of the offers that you have. So I trust all of you are on Facebook. Please, if you're not on Facebook, it's very critical. Get there. There's also Twitter. Twitter is very good for business people. So I would go for these three if you ask me, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where the business people are. If you are going to have corporate decision makers, you will get them on LinkedIn. So I'll go LinkedIn number 1, and I'll go Twitter number 2. Most of the business people are also on Twitter. And obviously, a lot of the retail deals will come from your Facebook engagements. And out of 10 million people who are on social media, you can check how many of them have you been able to contact. You have hardly scratched the surface. Even on LinkedIn alone, which is purely for business and professionals, we have more than 2 million Kenyans on LinkedIn. By the time your LinkedIn profile is getting to 1,000 people, you'll have a lot of people that you can sell to. Remember this, when you're connected with someone on LinkedIn, this is someone who will be alerted every time you make a post. And if it is something that is interesting, they can comment. And when they comment, you can pick up a conversation with them and you go on to make your pitch. And that kind of prospecting during this season will give you more than enough leads or prospects to keep your pipeline healthy and bulging. Otherwise, as we say that it is no longer possible to prospect physically, let's also appreciate that if we are to prospect using the digital platforms that are available, we will have many, many, many more options than we would have had on physical connections. And certainly when we are talking about doing virtual presentations, it is not all gloom, because as you know, whereas you may not have been in a position to do more than 2 physical presentations in a day, if you are doing virtual presentations like what we are doing now, you can technically be able to move from one presentation to another. So you could even be able to do 3, 4, 5, 6 presentations in a day, which you could not have been able to do earlier on. Not to mention, doing virtual presentations is far much cheaper than in doing the actual physical ones. I would now like to take a pause, and I would like to request each one of you to go to the bottom of your screen, and you will see there is a button there written polls. Can you go to polls? Anyone seen pause? Please raise your hands. Can you see pause? Pause is next to chat. When you go to pause, I've sent each one of you a poll that I would like you to help us to do. Please, this poll is going to give us feedback on how we can have better presentations for you in future. It's just about 6 questions. Please take 10 seconds and give me some feedback, and then we move on. Can we have everyone click the poll and give some feedback? Please go to the bottom of your Zoom screen and click polls. I've sent you a poll. I can see a lot of people already doing the polling. Please go ahead. Please go ahead and do the polling. I can see a number of you already on number 6. Kindly go ahead.
I have submitted mine. I don't know if it has come because I'm having challenges with the network here. Has it come through?
Yes, they are coming through. I can see many of you are still submitting. They are coming through. 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 Please go ahead and submit your poll. We are almost there. We are almost there. Who is the last one to submit? Who is the last one to submit? We are waiting for you to submit. We are waiting for you to submit. And on that note, I can see we are already doing 4:30 p.m. This marks the closing point of our presentation for these 2 days. I want to thank you very much for taking time to be with us on this program. And I really appreciate the feedback that you are giving. And I will look forward to seeing you in the very near future. In the meantime, please take what you have picked. If you can just pick one thing from this program and implement it, I'm sure your sales will be much better. Otherwise, for me, is thank you very much. If you have already submitted your polling, you can